never start on time. Thank you all for coming. It's not raining. Cheers to that. Yeah, we can applaud.
I'm actually from Austin. We like the rain. So hey,
yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
All right. So welcome everyone. Today we're going to be talking about the secrets to online video success, because there actually are some things, if you're starting a web show, that you can do that can't guarantee your success, but that will help to lead you along the path to success. And the rewards, if you do everything right, are actually very high. I think much higher than most people realize. If you do a web series well, you have the opportunity to make at least $1 million, if not more. You can have staff of more than a dozen people, and you can reach an audience of millions. More people, in fact, than many cable TV shows, and even some non-cable TV shows. So there is a huge opportunity right now for people who are creating online series, but what's the right way to reach success? We have an incredible panel to explain with Burnie, the creator of Red vs. Blue, who some of you may have seen do their first ever live performance last night, which was very cool. We have Barry Blumberg, who just informed me that not only is he the president of SMOS, but he was apparently an extra in the film Teen Wolf. And if you know that film, we are all old together.
You guys remember me?
Yeah.
They were like dancing, and Michael J. Fox walked like right in front of me, and I was doing the wolf.
Later, we will be having a seminar about doing the wolf, and no one will show up to that. And then we have Sean Plott, who is the producer and host of D9. And the only one to get applause who didn't mention being an extra in Teen Wolf, so Sean. Very well done. So Burnie, we're going to start with you. Your production company, Rooster produces a number of web series, including Red vs. Blue. The show launched, now pay attention to this is actually a key number here, in 2003, is that right?
That is correct.
Which is a little while ago.
We launched on April 1st, which is a terrible date to have an anniversary for your company on the website. Because every time we make a major announcement on our anniversary, we have to spend the next 2 months telling people it's not a prank.
So Red vs. Blue is actually about to begin its 10th season, which makes it, we believe, the longest running web series in history. It is also the longest running sci-fi series in America. It's the #1 gaming podcast on iTunes. It's attracted more than 1.5 billion video views. And you employ how many people at Rooster Teeth?
As of today, we are 31 people.
And they get healthcare, right?
Yes, yeah.
Like, I mean, I say that, we laugh about it, but it's a real company.
Yeah.
He's producing a web series, he's 31 people working at the company, and it's the real deal. It's a real production company. So one of the things that we'll talk about is the ability to create basically the new production company.
401k. Everyone works indoors, has their own chair.
Cubicle?
No, actually, we don't have any cubicles. We don't. We have an open air studio, basically.
So I wanted to start off, Burnie, by can you tell us what are you most proud of everything that you have achieved since 2003? We're in early 2012. What are you most proud of that Rooster Teeth has achieved with Red vs. Blue?
Well, I think the thing we're probably most proud of at the company is the longevity. To frame this in context, when we started doing a web series online, we had to explain to people what a web series was. In fact, we made a couple of videos that began to explain what is a web series. At the time, the only other people who were doing content, it seemed like video content on a regular basis, were mainly Flash cartoons. The biggest one, of course, being Homestar Runner, who we essentially, there's always one Homestar Runner. And those guys were huge, they were a huge influence over us when we first got going. In fact, when we talked to them, we met them at South by, I think 2005 or 6, and kind of had laughed because at the time we said it was like, I guess we're competitors with one another, but it was the feeling of showing up at the Boston Marathon and there's like 4 other people at the starting line, you know? And it's like, okay, I guess we're all racing against each other, but it's not really the case. You're kind of racing against yourself, you know? And so to be able to, go from 2003 to 2012, to be able to survive all those different things, and at any point in time in the topology of the internet, you're always going to have something that's super hot that you have to be involved with, and you have to go all in on this. But we've seen a lot of those things come and go. I'm sure today we'll talk a lot about Facebook and Twitter, but to have a frame of reference, when we first started our show, if we were talking about those things back then, we'd be talking about how do we raise our friends on MySpace, or how are we going to take advantage of Friendster or Dogster, which was an actual thing. It was a social network for dogs. So the longevity, I think, is the big thing for us, and to be able to work for 10 years and now have a full-fledged career in online media, that's something I'm very, very proud of.
Let's talk about when you first started. Did you have a plan? People talk now about you should think of your web series as a startup. But when you started, did you have goals? Did you have financial projections? Did you know what you wanted to accomplish?
Well, it was going to be a 6-episode series initially, and then it just kind of took off. The popularity for the series, I always say, was like falling up a cliff, because we had a viewership of about 3,000 for the website that we had before Red versus Blue. So about 3,000 people showed up to watch the first video. It was linked on Slash.fark and a gaming site called Penny Arcade, a very popular gaming site called Penny Arcade, all in one day, which there's no YouTube at the time, so it melted our servers and we had to figure out a way to service this video. We went from 3,000 views in the first week to 250,000 people showing up for the second week, and then by the end of the month we had a regular viewership of about 1 million people a week. So it went really quickly. Essentially, we went beyond our wildest expectations almost immediately.
So there's a vote for a plan, or the no plan plan.
Right.
Barry, let's move to you. So Smosh does more than 100 million video views a month. And you've created an incredibly loyal, some people might say fanatical fan base. What are you most proud of? How do you quantify success for Smosh?
I was thinking about it. The thing that I'm most proud of is that I met these kids when they were 17 years old in 2006, and one of them just bought a house. I mean, that's like a huge deal to see this kid that was just lip syncing the lyrics to Pokemon, and he bought a house last year, and it's huge. It's huge that we're still in business, and huge that we're still growing in popularity, and it's just the first conversation that I had with the guys, and you guys had a little more business acumen than they may have had at 17. But I said to them, if it works out, and that was a long shot, you guys won't have to get regular jobs. And one of them was Chuck E. Cheese, working at Chuck E. Cheese. And I say he was working at Chuck E. Cheese because there are people who are Chuck E. Cheese who don't work at Chuck E. Cheese. They're strange people. Well, one of them was working at Chuck E. Cheese and the other one was coding. And they haven't had to have a regular job in 6 years.
How many people work on the show now, and what does everyone do?
Well, they have a full production crew up in Sacramento, which is probably, it expands up and down with production. Then we have another half a dozen people who work full-time on the Smosh.com website.
So this is a real business?
It is a real business. It is a real company. It was a company that was sold in July to Alloy Digital.
So if it starts to look a lot more like Gossip Girl, which would be really weird, I don't know one. Sean, D9 has become a very significant brand online. And I'm curious to know, was there a moment that you realized, holy cow, this thing is going to work?
I guess it was probably in early 2010. I'd only been doing the show for a few months, but it was getting to the point where the show that actually happens 5 days a week was hitting a few 100,000 views a show. And, thanks to the fact that there's huge advances in things like Twitch TV live streaming and Blip TV and YouTube hosting and ad revenue, I was still in grad school at the time, and, there was that whole thing where all my peers, oh gosh, can we do the job hunt? And I was like, good luck, and thanks to all these advances, it was a pretty clear, easy path.
That's great. What surprises you most about the success of the show?
I think the biggest biggest thing that surprises me is the fact that the community is so involved with everything that we do. It's not actually an audience that, per se. I mean, usually if you're making a TV show, you envision a demographic that you want to hit and you try to get a big ice cream scoop out of this. But in the online web space, it's much more of a dialogue between you and the community. Everything you do, the community has a say in. Even, for instance, the idea of running commercials and doing ad revenue. Because the show I do is live, I can dynamically plant a commercial whenever I want. But of course, I don't want to offend the community. I don't want to just run an ad every 5 minutes. So I ask, is 3 ads all right with the community? Are they comfortable with that? And I've been inundated with emails, people saying, run more ads, do more, you need to earn more money. People just trying to support the show as best they can, which is totally non-traditional. Ordinarily you think of, well, how do we get money, put it better, how can we get the higher sales up? Instead, the community is right there with you trying to push it.
So people realize that through the advertisement, this is what means that all of you guys can go full-time. That's great. So that's actually a perfect segue, thank you, into, we're going to start talking about the substance of how do you produce a successful series online. And the first topic is going to be targeting a niche. Because I think there's this belief that, okay, if I just produce great content like my film or my television show, then, the audience will come. But in fact, in the web series world, I think we will hear from our panelists, you need to go after an audience. It's not necessarily true that the people will just find you. So Sean, I'm curious to ask, how did you begin and how did you find your audience?
So I'll start off the bat by saying that my content is like as niche as it gets. I do strategy content for one game at a high level. So that already kind of winnows it down a lot. The game is StarCraft 2. Any StarCraft players? All of you, great, good. So I played the original StarCraft competitively for about a decade. I was really heavily involved in the competitive gaming space, so I was already known in the community, but more importantly, I knew where the community lived. I knew the 3 websites that made up 95% of what the StarCraft community was. So when I began, I didn't have to do something like run an ad campaign, run a promotion on GameFAQs or something like that. Instead, I just went to those StarCraft community sites and said, hey guys, it's me, Sean, you know me, so I'm doing this web show thing. And immediately, the audience began to grow very, very, very quickly. Just by knowing where your audience lives, you can just tap into that almost immediately.
How important is the authenticity side?
Oh, that's actually the #1 most important thing. For instance, my camera angle, my show looks grainy. It looks very low budget. I mean, well, it's a $50 webcam, and that's the biggest part of the budget. And the camera angle is actually not good. It's a chin shot. I always get told that I look horrible on the show and look way better in real life. This is not an illusion. This is the way it is. And we've had discussions where we've thought about changing the camera angle, change it to look a little bit more professional, to look a little bit more sleek. But suddenly the community says, ugh, it looks like a produced show. It doesn't look like Sean. It doesn't look like this intimate one-to-one dialogue. And that's something that we really treasure and really value a lot. And even though it looks that way, there's actually so much testing that goes on where we look at the spike in feedback. Is it negative or positive? How many negative or positive emails happen when we make this adjustment, when we make this change? And we've ended up settling on something that actually looks not very intentionally produced, but actually is one of the most well thought out parts of the entire show.
So interesting. So if you're too handsome, or if you perceive yourself as such, do not start the web show.
Or just get a chin shot.
Barry, your show serves an audience that's clearly online. I know it's vast, but it's mostly young people, I would have to assume. How hesitant would you be to start a series that's reaching an audience that's not necessarily online? That might be a little bit older, not super tech and gaming savvy. I don't know, the needlepoint world of America, the gardening world of America. How hesitant would you be?
Well, I mean, we did start shows on teen.com and girl.com, which are websites that I also work for now. But, the guys, Anthony and Ian from SMOS, very similar to what Sean said, we were actually really fortunate. We saw that when they made their first video on YouTube and got this huge bump, that these guys were organic, they were one of the things that we've really pursued was that we want them to make their content, because I come from the traditional media world, and what I always hoped for was the thinnest possible veil between the audience and the creators of a given show. And when these two kids make a video, they're not kids, they're 22 now, or 23, but when they make a video, that's who they are. This is coming right from the depths of who they are, and it's a stupid sense of humor, and it's a game that they love, and it's a product that they can't stand, or it's a task they have to fulfill, and it's so honest. It just connects with an audience, and I think that when I move into other areas on team.com or grill.com or some brand extensions we've done on Smosh, it's really important to try to keep that connection, to find people that an audience can connect to and relate to.
Cool, that makes sense. Burnie, how did you find your audience online?
We had a pretty instantly identifiable star in our show, although it's not a typical star that you would think of. Our star was Master Chief from the game Halo. I mean, we used Halo to make our primary show, but we had a very specific strategy in that because it was in a video game, we didn't want to make it about a video game, because we wanted it to be much more accessible. And so the first episode was actually a big deconstruction of that. So it's hard to believe now, because video games are such a part of our mainstream culture. It's a bigger industry now than movies are. It's hard to believe, but at the time I felt like there was a big portion of the audience that we wanted to reach that if they saw a video game, they would immediately tune out. And so we had to make sure that the writing was sharp and the characters were sharp, and it didn't seem like we were just trying to make a bunch of inside jokes about video games in general, and then one video game in particular. Because as you know, people who like certain video games then also hate other video games.
Yes, it's an identity thing for gamers. No one ever says what they like, they just say what they don't like, really.
Right, yeah, exactly. And they'll fight it hard. So we want to make sure we were accessible to first the culture, the niche culture we were part of, but then we wanted to be able to expand beyond that as well.
And I think that Sean, you're an exception to the rule, but for us, we always, there's tons of inside stuff in what we do, and it's subtle, and it's probably lost on 80 or 90% of the audience. But they do that stuff, but we also, in every episode, we had to have a script that worked. It needed to be, shot in a way that was appealing. So while it was very real, we also had to broaden that appeal, because, our goal was to continue to grow our audience and to create a sustainable model. And so that came from, repeatability, that came from dependability. When we look out there at the universe, our universe of 4.5 million subscribers on YouTube, they know that every Friday at 1 o'clock Pacific time, they're going to have a video starring Anthony and Ian that is of a certain quality, and when they don't get it, it's the nastiest audience in the world. So, we've created this relationship, and we try to deliver on that.
Yeah, that actually, thank you again. Perfect segue to the next topic, which is consistency. So let's talk about this for a minute. How important is consistency to both maintaining and building your audience?
Consistency is everything. The actual worst part about this job is that no one tells you what to do. I don't have a boss. If I don't want to do a show, I actually don't have to do a show. But the fact is, every day you do the show, no matter what. If you're having a great day, you do the show. If you had a terrible day, you do the show. If you didn't sleep last night, you do the show. Unless you're at South by Southwest, in which case it's kind of hard to do the show from there. But as often as you can. In Day 9 TV, we do a show 5 nights a week, Sunday to Thursday, 7 p.m. every night. And just as much as viewers love the ability to just tune in whenever, that video on demand, the reason YouTube and Blips are successful, they also love that regularity. I love what you say about Friday at 1 p.m. They know that's when they're going to get it. For our live stream, you show up at 7 p.m., you know that you're going to get a show. And I think that is probably the #1 reason why Day 9 TV has any success at all. The fact that it's reliable, and you know that as long as you show up, something will happen. I think that's honestly far more important than quality.
Barry, how much content are you putting out in a given week?
Oh my God. We started doing 3 videos a month. They couldn't do 4. They felt that they didn't have enough ideas for 4 videos a month, so 3 was what we settled on. Today, their production apparatus up in Sacramento produces 6 videos a week. And then on top of that, we do about 50 to 60 blog posts on our website. So we expanded, we took, and I don't know if you want to talk about money or business or anything, but like, I was very hesitant to have one revenue stream from one big company who could shut that off anytime. Not that they have and not that they would, but we wanted to broaden out. So we really broadened out the website by producing content on the website and created other revenue streams like ad revenue on the website. We had a different video player on the website, which was Blip, to give us some balance out there. We sell merchandise, we sell apps, we sell music, and so it was really about broadening this. But we've gone from that one video on Friday afternoon at 1 p.m. to we are live to our audience in some way, shape, or form from 11 p.m. to Pacific time till 7 p.m. at night. And by live, I mean we are putting up content on the website, we are releasing videos, we're engaging with them on Twitter, we're engaging with them on Facebook, we're engaging with them in the comments on whatever videos we release. We can be responsive to that, similar to the way that a radio DJ is responsive, in that there's always, in SMOS, there's always a live person on the other end of products being released. And so, we just look at this as a radio DJ is a really good example of what it is that we do. We're serving our audience, and we see what works and we see what doesn't work, and it's disposable. A blog post costs us $20 or $30 for somebody to write it, and we put it up, and that's made a huge difference.
Yeah, I'm curious to know if we, so talking a bit about consistency, but also about just super serving your audience. How much time do you guys spend interacting with your audience, and has that evolved over time?
There's interactivity, and then there's like real interactivity. I mean, we have interactivity in that our audience knows that someone is behind this. The younger members of our audience think Anthony and Ian do every single tweet, every single Facebook post, write every blog post, light and do the craft services on their videos. It's a little bigger of an enterprise than that, but we try to be interactive with them all the time. When we first started Facebook, when Facebook was, I think that when we all came to a realization that we could actually drive traffic to videos or to a website using this thing called Facebook, we also found that we could talk back and forth to our audience on Facebook because people just sit on Facebook. And for us, we had a lot of forums on the website, but Facebook was broader. It was more regular people, I think, than we found in the forums on our website. And oftentimes, we'll get like a really hateful comment on Facebook. We have 2.5 million likes or fans or whatever you call them on Facebook, and so we get like a really nasty comment like "fuck you, you fucking asshole" for putting that. And like I go to that person's Facebook page and take their photograph and I blow it up really big and I post it on our Facebook page to 2.5 million people, and I'm like, this guy hates us.
And then they get fired from
and then people would love that. They would just like his post, and then 8,000 people would go friend him, and that's how we interact sometimes. That's just me.
It's a bunch of your biggest fans that way. That'll burn out, probably. We at Rooster Teeth, one of the first things we did early on was we made a community site for our people that were watching the show, the audience members, to go and discuss it. And then once we knew if we had a big plan for the show, that eventually some people are just naturally going to grow tired of something after 3 or 4 or 8 years. So we wanted to have a place for them to go, so that when we had new shows coming out, they know they could always go to roosterteeth.com to see our new content. They could always find us there, because like I was saying earlier, if we just spent our first few years building up all of our friends on MySpace, and that's where we invested all of our energy, we would have to just redo that a few years later after no one was on MySpace anymore, or after all the bands took over, I guess. So we always do that. Like, we just had a major discussion this week because we consider YouTube to be a social network as well. It's a very important social network for us, but we realized that we were driving people from YouTube to Twitter. We were saying, here's our Twitter accounts if you want to follow us on Twitter. doesn't do anything for us in the long run. So we always have an attempt to drive people back to our website. And that goes back to the consistency thing we talked about earlier. People know over the years consistently where they can find us because we always drive them back to our site. It's at the center hub of all of our social media efforts. And we engage people on there, we do bonus content on there, engage in that ongoing conversation with them. And then we have different YouTube channels for different products. We have specifically ones that are for gameplay videos, specifically ones that are for live action shorts now, specifically channels that are just for machinima or red versus blue even.
We did that too. YouTube was our biggest social network, and each Friday we always made sure to have an additional piece of video content that was only available on our website. And our videos would end, and we would send anywhere from 100,000 to 200,000 people on a Friday afternoon from YouTube to our website. Today it's more like 600,000 or 700,000 people come from YouTube in the course of a weekend just from that one tout at the end of our main video on Fridays. Strangely, and I'm surprised it happened as quickly as it did, but Facebook has now become the #1 traffic driver to our website, bigger than YouTube, because the audience is a little more engaged. And
how's Twitter?
We have a younger audience, and so Twitter I think is slightly older than our audience is sort of 13 and 14-year-olds. The other thing about Twitter I found is that most people consume Twitter on a mobile platform, and on a mobile platform with 5 tweets on a screen, if you're following 100 people, we can put something out and it's gone by the time somebody checks their Twitter stream. So it doesn't work for that purpose as well as Facebook does for us.
I would agree 100% with everything you just said. That's phenomenal numbers on drawing people away from YouTube. It's hard to get people to leave YouTube. They haven't published this stat in a while.
By the way, YouTube loves us for that.
For driving people off, yeah.
No.
But there was a stat that YouTube published. They'll publish stats every now and then. Like the big one they just published was that every minute on YouTube, 60 hours of content are uploaded. So if you wanted to watch every video on YouTube, you would fall 2.5 days behind every minute that you attempted that effort. The other one they posted was, this was a few years ago, that the average person, when they show up on YouTube, they watch 43 videos in an average session. And I don't think many people in this room watch 43 videos on average. So there's somebody out there watching hundreds of videos every time they show up.
That's my son.
Yeah. So getting people to leave YouTube is difficult. But we also find that Facebook is great for that. Facebook, they're willing to go everywhere and anywhere to look at content.
And YouTube has become, very accommodating with respect to that. I think that some time ago they wrote an algorithm, and if anybody from YouTube is here, I would say this to you, so I'm not telling a secret, but I think they wrote an algorithm that was called most popular because we would always get most viewed, and it was always the same people, and they didn't like what was most viewed, and so they started pushing this popular thing, and we weren't very popular, even though we get far more views than almost everybody else. And what we deduced was that one of the things for being popular was that you went and watched another video on YouTube. And that was not what we were telling our audience to do. So, that was a little bit defeating to us because we weren't getting that homepage support. But over time, YouTube has come around, and I think that we all would attest to this. They've become incredibly supportive of their partners having businesses. And the partner business does not have to fit 100% into the YouTube model anymore. They're much more accommodating, much better about that. In fact, I've got to say, blip aside, you guys are fantastic, but YouTube is the best partner I've ever had in business on any level.
Cool. So
Even though I never really talk to human beings.
So we're clearly going into the realm, we are dabbling into the marketing side, so we'll officially move the conversation for a little bit to talk about marketing. I've been saying for years that if you want to produce a successful web series, you should spend about half your time producing great content and half your time thinking about marketing, i.e., if we're framing up, we're saying you cannot just produce content and then be done with it, unlike in traditional media as the producer. Would you agree with that?
Marketing is absolutely an important component, but it's a really different kind of marketing. I talked a little bit about this beforehand, that you have to know where your community lives in a lot of circumstances to get that initial jump start. Because, you know, once your video views become popular enough, YouTube helps so much in getting you extra links, getting other content to connect to yours. But for our content, going to those community sites and making a post every day, hey, there's another show coming up, doing, you know, the usual sorts of social media pushes were secondary to making sure that those community sites were aware of it. And as a result, the growth was very staggering, considering, again, that we do one game for strategy content at a high level. The first show had 57 views, and by the end of the week, it had several hundred views for live viewers, and a few thousand on the archives. And within a few months, it was several thousand tuning in live, and hundreds of thousands on the archive. So, I mean, just having that spike up with, again, not really that much other marketing other than within the community.
And I was curious to know, what responsiveness of fans surprises you? Do people send things to you that surprise you as you're doing the show?
Probably the biggest thing that surprises me most is the amount of support that the community gives. Whenever anything comes up, if I ever say, you know, like, hey, is this amount of commercials okay? That sort of huge spike. Oh yes, we absolutely want it. Making those sorts of posts. Going a little bit onto the business side, one of the big revenue streams that we have is a voluntary subscription. If you would like to just support the show, you may provide $5 a month to us. And that's it. There's no extra premium content, there's no capture or anything like that. And that's something that is surprising, not just for my show, but I know a lot of other popular web TV shows use that business model, the voluntary subscription. I know Twit TV with Leo Laporte was doing that, where Leo Laporte said any advertising revenue that's made goes back into the show. And you get to choose audience, how much I make. And he, a few years ago, was making over $20,000 a month in just basic salary.
It's like NPR style. That's interesting.
Yeah.
What do you do outside of the web to market?
Outside of the web to market, I mean, a huge...
Like live events or anything else?
Yeah, there's a lot of live events that I go to do that sort of fan community interaction. Because, I mean, honestly, I spend most of my time alone in the room preparing for the show or doing the show. So the chance to go and step into that live space and interact with the audience, even if it's just a small fraction of the audience, those people immediately become your evangelists. The fact that they got to meet you, they got to see that you're actually the same person behind the camera that you are in real life, and then they will go onto the web and they will do so much marketing for you. And that honestly is probably one of the other key tools for marketing, is if you get that dedicated audience, then they become your evangelists. And to make sure that you take care of them, that it's not just, I'm going to make a show and it's awesome, come on, watch me. It's what can I do back for you? So we do a lot of giveaways, free signed t-shirts, going to these sorts of live events, trying to create fan meetups, doing other live promotions.
There's a great TED Talk called How to Start a Movement. And they use a popular online video, which is about a guy at a music festival. He's on a hill. He's obviously consumed something that the cops would give him a hard time about. And he's dancing up on a grass hill. And this other guy comes along and dances along with him. And then all of a sudden there's 3 people dancing, then there's 6 people dancing, and within about a minute there's 1,000 people dancing around this guy. And the TED Talk focuses on, it's not the guy dancing that's important, it's the first follower. It's the guy who comes up and shows everyone else what to do with this guy. Because without the first follower, he's just a lone nut dancing on a hill. So if you get a chance, it's a really powerful video thing. So when you find those evangelists early on, they can be your most powerful assets.
Have you ever been to a movie and the movie ends and you look around the theater and nobody gets up? And then if you get up, like everybody else will get up. I mean, audiences need to be told what to do and they need to know it's okay. And I think it's one of the greatest things about Facebook is that, you know, people share your content or it gets exposed that people are liking your content. And when people see other people like something, they check it out and they look at it. You know, for us, from a marketing standpoint, you know, we've spent, Google gave us $100 in free AdWords marketing, and that's the entirety of our marketing spend over 6 years. We market with content, and so whether that is, you know, and we treat all of our, what we would call our marketing platforms, or our social platforms, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, our website, our mobile site, our apps, everything is about a piece of content. As soon, and we made this mistake in the beginning, when we just looked at Twitter and Facebook as, hey, there's a new post up on the website, go to it. People aren't that interested in that. The reason why I think that we blew up on Facebook and did so well with our audience there was because 10 to 20% of the content that we put out on Facebook is endemic to Facebook. It's not driving you anywhere. It's a funny picture. It's something we did. Anthony naked in the shower and Ian snapped his picture. And people love that. And they treat it like, we didn't actually put that one up, but they're funny. But all of a sudden, like, he put up a stupid picture on Facebook and 20,000 people liked that picture in 20 minutes. That's exposing it to all their friends. If you have a Facebook page, there's this crazy thing on your insights on Facebook that'll tell you, what your potential reach is. And ours is like 500 million people or something. I mean, it's crazy when you go to the friends of your friends of the friends.
So a lot of what we're talking about is influencer marketing and brand marketing. Burnie, I'll ask you more of the traditional web marketing side. Are you using SEO? Do you try to figure out what's trending today and how do I use all of those searches going on to drive traffic to my show?
Well, YouTube is the #2 search engine in the world. That's why Google bought them, is they saw that the whole internet was moving towards video. So now, #2 of all the searches being made, #2 is YouTube in terms of overall volume. So just strategies on YouTube to fall under SEO. And there's people who are very much talking about it just a little while ago, about how do we end up on the front page, what trends up there. So we do look at that quite a bit, and we look at it from a standpoint of, how do we get our videos to the forefront, how do we get people talking about them. We do some live action shorts where we do mine from current events. I mean, that just seems like a natural thing for live action shorts. But other than that, no, we just try to stay consistent with our content and let people know where they can find us, what time they can find us, and how we do it. But as far as marketing goes, we have spent some money on marketing because we also take our show and then sell it retail on DVD and then also on iTunes and every other digital distribution platform there is. And so we find that Facebook, once again, is a great way to do that because Facebook has amazing ability to target their advertisements. Like, I can place an ad on someone's page, for instance, who likes Halo, but it does not currently like Red versus Blue. So it seems like there's an opportunity. The best thing that I could do if we could do it is somebody who's the mom of someone who likes Halo. That would be the best thing ever.
We do a little bit of SEO, but then I saw last week that the #9 search term driving traffic to our website was boner.
Moving on. That had nothing to do with Anthony not being shot naked and posted on the web.
Not at all.
Let's talk about brand. How important is brand? I guess, Sean, we'll start with you on this. How much do you think about it and what do you do to reinforce the brand?
Well, this ties in nicely to what was being discussed earlier about the idea of your first few followers. Because of the fact that you generally have a community as opposed to an audience, there's this whole notion of how do you get the community that you want. I'm sure as many of you have read YouTube comments before and thought people like this actually exist and say these horrible things to each other. You don't want an audience like that that's nasty or trollful. And you can help shape your audience by selecting the way that you interact with them. Very early on in Day 9 TV, obviously there were the posts like, oh, it's so stupid, he doesn't know what he's talking about, I hate everything, and one of those posts. A couple of those, and then one really thoughtful, insightful post from someone. And I responded to that. And then continue this on for, 30, 40 pages of discussion. And suddenly, the trolls rapidly just disappear. The sort of personality types that you don't want disappear, and the kind of discourse that you do want takes over entirely. So all of a sudden, Day 9 TV is not just a guy doing a show and his crew supporting it. It's the entire community mentality. People who, those evangelists for the show don't say things like, oh, you should watch the show, this guy's cool. They say, well, they obviously say that, right? But then they also say, and if you go into the live chat, everyone there is really helpful and friendly, and if you stay there afterwards and ask questions, people will step forward to help you, because that's the community that we've helped cultivate. And by the same token that we were discussing earlier, having all your marketing mechanisms rely on your community and giving them credit for it is so powerful. I don't tweet that I'm going live with a show. I tell my audience, hey, we're going to go live in a little bit. If you tweet that we're going live, I will retweet the funniest ones. And you have to be funny. If you're not funny, I'm blocking you on Twitter. Right? And then all of a sudden people can see me, because I always do a pre-show before the stream, and people see right there that I'm scrolling through, and oh, there's a really funny one, and the the chat screen erupts in laughter, and I retweet that one, and suddenly before every show, I have a few hundred people tweeting that the show's going live without me even having to say anything. And when you can implement those kinds of mechanisms, suddenly people take on that brand identity yourself. They're not just a viewer of the show, they're a participant in the marketing of the show, in the personality of it.
Yeah, so brand is you, brand is responsiveness, brand is authenticity, brand is communication. It's funny though, I feel like there's still some folks out there who aren't savvy about this world, who might think, I'm just gonna start a show, but they don't realize I even need to make a logo. Did you guys think about this in 2003?
We did. We probably should have thought about it a little more in depth before trying to name our company Cockbite Productions, and the state of Texas saying, no, you can't do that. So it's like, oh, let's name it Rooster Teeth then. And the decisions you make early on really do kind of stick with you for a while. No, but we also had a big show, and so we had a branding issue where we wanted the brand overall, Rooster Teeth, to be bigger than the show, and so we just weren't known for this. We weren't known as the red versus blue guys, and that took a long time to get done. But we're very consistent in the way we present the videos and present the branding. As a testament to that, somebody on this side of the room loaded up one of my videos when I was talking, and I knew that you did because I heard our branding noise and I heard our slate. Who was that over here? Was that you?
I heard that too.
Okay, so
Yeah, I heard that too.
no, yeah, it was a great example. So it's like I knew someone in the audience was playing one of our videos because in the time, when you have to think, oops, it's not on mute, and I have to mute it. I already heard our branding, and so I don't know what you watched, but I hope you enjoyed this.
We're the same, every one of our videos has the same logo scroll that comes up, and every single one of our videos for 5 years has shut up in front of it, and it'll be noise, and then shut up. And it's become really iconic with our audience, and if you see that, it's one of our videos.
Is Gossip Girl thinking of using that as well? Sean, you talked a lot about responsiveness, but I'm curious to ask you, how do you balance your creative vision, what you want to do, versus responding to the audience? It's basically like what politicians have to deal with. Do I lead, or do I just respond to what everybody wants me to do?
Oh, it's such a crazy balancing act with all the data, because one thing that's delightful about the web media is that you can do things like figure out your format empirically. You don't actually need the verbal feedback. For instance, how long should the intro to the show be? And then how long should the core content be? And how long should the outro be? Well, we can look at an engagement graph and actually see that, and see, oh, if it went too long, there's a dip, because people actually skipped ahead in the video because they actually wanted to get to the real content. And that's very helpful. Things like telling a joke that didn't go over well and seeing your viewership drop by 10%, that stings. But it helps you know exactly what your audience enjoys and doesn't enjoy. I think that feedback is critical to make sure that the audience knows they're being listened to. But at the same time, it's important that you actually trust your creative vision. I think it's a huge mistake to buy in too much to what your audience is saying, because in the online space, they will be way more loud. They can talk to you directly. I mean, literally, I'm doing a show, and I can see people typing right now, this is awesome, or this doesn't make any sense at all. I can see that happening right then and there. And it's important to actually sort of shut that out, because if you over-listen to your audience, if you try to please everyone, then what happens is you just end up being a weak echo of a collection of expectations. It's important to have that trust.
It's a great way to put it.
Negative people are 10 times louder than positive people. I mean, for every 10 negative comments, there's one positive person, but it doesn't mean that that's the balance. Negative people just like to get out there and be negative, and the positive people just are enjoying their content.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, almost everyone who watches you won't talk.
Right.
Almost everyone. And I mean, we experience this almost literally because the show's done live, some people have problems connecting to it. So I'll look at the chat and there'll be a good amount of people say, it's lagging. Is it lagging for anyone else? It's lagging. And then I'll stop the show and be like, do we need to reboot the stream? Is something going wrong? And suddenly the 4,000 people who were enjoying the show are just like, no, just keep going. And freak out. And yeah, it's important to trust yourself.
So I'm going to ask one more question to the panelists, but then we're going to take questions. So if any of you have questions, if you want to go in front of that beautiful, inviting-looking mic up there, and we'll get to you in a couple minutes. But my last question to the panelists is TV the goal? Who wants to start?
It's not for us. I mean, we've built a business in the online space, and we don't differentiate between, you hear multi-screen, any screen, platform agnostic. We don't really think of it as, let's get to TV. We've never thought about it that way. And, frankly, we looked at the space in the very beginning, and even though the money was not great, and it's still not great in the grand scheme of things relative to television, but we didn't necessarily see the merit of shoving a new media property into an old media model. So television is a passive experience. You sit there, you watch television, and it's one way. What we do is not like that. We are connected to our audience. We are intimate with our audience in a way that television can't do. So we don't really think of it that way.
So that's one no, Burnie.
I could not agree more with what you just said, and I can add to it a little bit for our philosophy. The one way is in TV you wouldn't even know who your audience is, and honestly, it's when we were approached by television networks, they didn't have any idea how lucrative web content could be. There was the expectation that nobody was making any money whatsoever, so we were getting what we were told were great deals for first-time guys after we've been making content for 6 years. And so we ended up turning those down. No, our goal is not TV. And I think the biggest thing to notice or to take away is that if you sit still and you really look at what's going on, there are so many people that are making content for the web, and it seems that they're trying to make a calling card for some other kind of career, whether it's TV or film. But if you look for more than 5 minutes, you see that everyone in the world is running this direction where we're all standing, and it's like there's like a land grab going on right now among networks and traditional media companies, and there's so many people that have such a strong foothold. Why would they go anywhere else? Why not just build on what we have here?
So that's 2 no's, Sean.
No. It's weird. It's like this validation thing that I feel like a lot of web producers need, that they're not a real show unless they're on TV, which is total crap. Like all 3 of us have companies with full-time employees that help us support our shows that we don't have any intention of ever getting on TV. The one thing that definitely is nicer is the money. It's much easier to convince an advertiser to buy on a TV spot than it is to convince them, no, I don't just do cat videos. That's not right. I actually do a real well thought out. I know it's a webcam. That's statistically what gives me the best viewership. And even when you say something like, hey, I get over 10 million views a month, I can get 15,000 warm bodies in one location if you just give me a venue. You say that and they go, but it's on the internet. And that's the one thing that's literally the only roadblock in my eyes, is this psychological block that a lot of advertisers are having, where for some reason, they still want to cling onto the TV, even though with the internet you can engage your audience more, you can talk to them, they can talk to you, they can, we were joking beforehand, what's your click-through rate on a TV ad?
Right.
If you're disappointed with our low click-through rate, TV is just so passive.
The internet suffers from a problem of metrics. You can quantify everything. You put up an ad, since they have all this data, they want to see certain things for click-throughs, and then not only click-throughs, but then what those people buy when they click through. That doesn't apply to print or to TV.
But to be clear, it's not 2006, it's not 2007. You 3 are sitting up here working full-time, to say the least, with production staffs, supported by advertising dollars and additional revenue also. But we're a world away from where we were 5 years ago.
Yes.
It's really great. And I cannot emphasize enough that even if you don't have a large audience, they can be so much better than any huge size of audience. Like recently, Forbes was nice enough to select me for their 30 under 30, and the people that were on the entertainment list were way more famous than I was, like Jonah Hill and Kobe Bryant. I'm not Kobe Bryant, but still, Day 9 had more retweets, likes, links. All the metrics associated with it were so much higher than everyone's there, and that's not because I'm more popular. That's because the community that you get from an online show is so much more active and engaged than any other kind of community, which makes it so much more lucrative. I just think it's just a short step away until the advertisers really catch up to that.
Right, and we're getting there. We would not have had 3 people working full-time in web series even a couple years ago. So we're getting there. For the questions, if you can keep it short and actually ask a question, that would be great.
Hi, my name is Lena, and I'm doing a sketch comedy series called So Natural, and it's for women. I have a question. I mean, I just started posting it, and I'm doing it via YouTube, and then I'm partnered with a company called the Common Diva Network. But I'm wondering, does it break up the audience too much to post your videos, say on YouTube and Blip and Vimeo and 5 different places and Funny or Die, or should you just try to feed your audience completely through YouTube and that's it?
Blast the internet, put it everywhere, as far as you possibly can. It's exactly like, what the Rooster Teeth crew does. They have a centralized website, and that helps connect it, but I mean, Day 9 TV is distributed on like 17 platforms or something.
Yeah, and we even break up we have on YouTube, last year we were the number 8th most watched channel in 2011 on YouTube, but on our website we don't embed any YouTubes at all. We use all Blip for our website. So we put it everywhere, and then once you find out where, just like with content, with niche content, there's niche platforms as well. You might find the audience that platform has already built is better for your show. So scatter approach it first, and then find out and concentrate your efforts on where you're doing well.
Hi, this is a question for Barry. I'm Ben Popkin, former managing editor of Consumers.com, contemplating dipping my toe into the web series waters. Earlier you talked about how YouTube was so supportive of your other revenue streams besides just the pure ad base. Could you talk a little bit more about what those other revenue streams are and how YouTube had, concretely, structurally helped you support those?
Well, I mean, I think the first and foremost concrete structural support that YouTube gave us was allowing us to put a link on their website that reached billions of people that linked to our website. That's huge. And then they allowed us to say at the end of every single, I mean, this is, I know what the ethos of YouTube is, that you put up a video and it's your video to do whatever you want with, but they could have said, do whatever you want, except don't send people away from our website. And they didn't do that. So every single video we make, at the end of the video, we tell the audience what to do, and we put that link right there. And they have been incredibly supportive of that. And we make money on our website with display revenue. As I said, we sell merchandise on our website. We've sold apps. We sell albums on iTunes. And then we monetize via Blip as well. So there's a lot of, I mean, there's a finite number of revenue streams, but there are different revenue streams.
Hello. For brands that are just getting started on YouTube and have 2 very different audiences, consumer and then trade, would you recommend having one channel with different playlists so that the content is more targeted, or creating 2 different channels?
Is the content different?
Yes, some would be like consumer entertainment, and then on the trade side it would be more like tutorials and how-tos.
I think you have to do that on 2 separate channels. The one thing that people don't like is getting inundated with stuff in their subscriber boxes that they don't want. And that's a quick way to have people unsubscribe to your channel. Is I don't want this. I don't want to be told every time you've made a tutorial. So it sounds like those are 2 pretty separate ideas.
Think of that, I think that would fall into the branding discussion, and you really do want to think about your brand and how you interact with the audience, so.
Thanks.
Yeah, and I can say from experience that as you build it up, it's much harder to split it later than it is early on.
Hi, I'm Gretchen Grant from vaudeville.com. Imagine for a moment that you're another sex at another age. You're 35 years old, you're a woman, and you're married, and you have...
I'm listening.
Not a stretch for me.
I know this is a creative group, and you rise to the occasion. And you have, you and your husband have a home, you bought it 3 years ago, and you're kind of into DIY. And you want to watch DIY in web series. To what extent would any of the advice you've given about online video, making it, producing it, marketing it, be different for your other sex and other age?
Well, I mean, we market to...
You have a high female audience.
Yeah, we're 45% So, you know, we market to both. We don't think differently. I think probably online behavior is probably more similar than most other behaviors, especially in younger demographics. With your demographic, I think that if you want to market, we're actually producing a DIY show on girl.com, which is not quite redoing your home, but it's smaller DIY projects. And it's, you know, for us, doing that is more about the mindset and how we talk to the audience, and not making the assumption that you don't know how to do anything, but being accommodating to people that, you know, don't necessarily know how to use every tool.
Did you have a thought, Sean?
I think that it's, at least my basic approach for that sort of thing, after envisioning myself as a 35-year-old woman, would be to try to just think who your audience is, and then to find where they live on the internet, and then to study them and to research them. I mean, for instance, for Day 9 TV, I mean, I'm sure there's very few people here who have heard of Team Liquid, but that is an essential marketing vehicle for what I do, because that's where so much of my audience lives. What's another thing that they do a lot? They love taking funny clips of me messing up and posting it on YouTube. And obviously I can't control it. Hey, GMCA shut down on that. That's a great chance for marketing. So I have to make sure that there's some branding whenever there's one of those videos that gets out. And if you end up creating that sort of video, that DIY piece, then you can use all the metrics. I mean, it's kind of like what we were saying earlier, there's metrics for everything. You can find absolutely anything that you want about your audience. So I think that for every web show, there'll be a slightly different approach, but just starting with knowing where they live is the best place to get your foot in the door, so that way you can get those metrics to start to study.
Yeah, and my audience is 94% male, so my lousy advice would be Pinterest.
What was your name again?
Oh, Gretchen.
Okay. So
She has a
Gretchen,
popular-
keep in mind the things that we talked about in terms of building a successful web series. We're targeting a niche, which is exactly what you're hearing from the panelists. Consistency, which is going to be as beneficial for female audiences and male audience. Super serving your audience, focusing on marketing, understanding your brand, and not having TV as the goal. Like, celebrate the fact that you're on the web. And that should apply regardless of who your audience is, whether they're gamers or not, women or not, etc. So I hope that those are the takeaways that everyone in the audience gets. And we only have 2 more minutes, so we can move on to the next
Would
question.
you talk about Blip TV before you go? Because you talked about these guys, but you didn't talk about you.
Oh yeah, my name is Dina. My name is Dina Kaplan. Sorry, I realized I didn't introduce myself. I am one of the founders of Blip. We are a platform for web series. We actually host all these shows, and the videos are elsewhere also, and share revenue back to producers. We founded the company, oh my God, 7 years ago, in order to serve independent producers. So that's literally our DNA, and our whole reason for being is to make independent web series scalable and profitable. And it is unbelievably rewarding to know that these guys are up here with web series being more than their full-time jobs. It's enabled them to build whole companies around what they're doing. And it's funny to hear Sean complain about not having a boss.